What do you know about King Alfred? Why is he called Alfred the Great? Alfred the Great's early life and family background. Alfred the Great, known as Aelfred in Old English, was born in Wantage, Berkshire, in the late 840s. The exact date of his birth remains a subject of scholarly debate, with estimates ranging from 847 to 849. Most historians, however, lean towards the latter part of this period, situating his birth around 849. This time frame places Alfred's early years amidst a period of significant political and cultural transformation in Anglo-Saxon England, a setting that would profoundly shape his future as one of the most notable rulers in English history. His father, Alfred's father, Ethelwulf, whose name translates to noble wolf in Old English, ascended to the throne of Wessex in 839. He succeeded his father, King Egbert, and became the ruler of one of the most prominent Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Wessex, located in the southwestern part of present-day England, was an influential kingdom during the 9th century. Despite being rulers of Wessex, Alfred's family possibly had Kentish origins, which suggested that they were relatively new to Wessex. The royal lineage of Wessex had not been passed consistently from father to son until the early 8th century, a factor that set the stage for Ethelwulf's eventual rise to power. Ethelwulf's reign was marked by several significant events, including the Viking incursions that began to threaten the British Isles during this period. As a king, Ethelwulf also undertook a notable pilgrimage to Rome, a journey that underscored the Christian piety and diplomatic aspirations of the Wessex royal house. This pilgrimage, which Ethelwulf made with his young son Alfred, played a crucial role in shaping Alfred's religious devotion and his future policies as a ruler. His mother, Alfred's mother, Osberga, was the daughter of Aslak, the pensurna or butler of the Wessex royal household. Aslak was a person of significant standing, believed to be of Jutish descent. The Jutes were a small Anglo-Saxon tribe that played a pivotal role in the early political landscape of England, particularly on the Isle of Wight. Osber herself was described in historical accounts as a very religious and noble woman, attributes that seem to have been passed on to her son. Her influence on Alfred is often noted in accounts of his life, suggesting that she instilled in him a strong sense of morality and religious duty. Osber's background provided Alfred with a connection to the broader Anglo-Saxon world, linking him to the diverse cultural and ethnic tapestry that characterized early medieval England. Her religious devotion and noble character likely influenced Alfred's own deep commitment to Christian values and education, which became hallmarks of his reign. His family. Alfred was the youngest of 6 children in his family, with 4 brothers and 1 sister, Ethelflaed. His eldest brother, Athelstan, died before he could succeed their father as king, a fate that left the succession open for Alfred and his other brothers. The remaining brothers, Ethelbald, Ethelbert, and Athelred, each had brief reigns before Alfred ascended to the throne. No contemporary portraits or coins depict Alfred, leaving his physical appearance largely a matter of speculation. However, written descriptions from the time often praised his handsomeness compared to other rulers, though these accounts lack specific details. Alfred's upbringing in a relatively large and competitive royal family undoubtedly influenced his development, teaching him the complexities of succession politics and the responsibilities of leadership from an early age. Biography and early life. The scarcity of sources from the early Middle Ages makes it challenging to reconstruct Alfred's early life in detail. The most comprehensive contemporary account is The Life of King Alfred, written by Asser, a Welsh monk who became a close associate of Alfred and a member of his court during the late 880s and 890s. Asser's biography is invaluable, providing insights into Alfred's character, his reign, and the challenges he faced. However, it should be approached with caution, as Asser may have exaggerated certain aspects of Alfred's achievements. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, another key source, offers a broader historical context, detailing the events and developments in England during Alfred's time. These records are supplemented by royal charters and other surviving documents, as well as Alfred's own writings, which cover a range of topics from philosophy and ecclesiastical matters to law codes. These texts provide a unique window into the mind of a medieval monarch and reflect Alfred's deep intellectual curiosity and commitment to governance. One significant detail from Asser's account is that Alfred did not learn to read until he was 12 years old. This was not unusual for the time, as literacy was not widespread, even among the nobility. However, this late start contrasts sharply with Alfred's later reputation as a scholar and patron of learning, highlighting his remarkable intellectual growth and the value he placed on education. Health. Another major event in Alfred's early life occurred in the mid-850s, when he was around 7 or 8 years old. His father, Ethelwulf, took him on a pilgrimage to Rome. This journey, which included passing through the court of Charles the Bald, King of the Franks, was a significant experience for young Alfred. Charles the Bald ruled the largest Christian kingdom in Western Europe at the time, and this exposure to continental politics and culture likely influenced Alfred's later efforts to foster learning and Christian values in his own kingdom. Asser also reports a more anecdotal story from Alfred's childhood, suggesting that at the age of 6, Alfred memorized a book of Anglo-Saxon poems to win a challenge set by his mother. While the veracity of this story is uncertain, it serves to illustrate Alfred's early engagement with learning and his competitive nature. More certain is the fact that Alfred suffered from health issues throughout his life, which modern scholars believe to be Crohn's disease, an inflammatory bowel condition. This ailment, characterized by periods of debilitating pain and discomfort, likely affected Alfred's ability to lead and may have contributed to his death in 899, around the age of 50. Despite these challenges, Alfred's resilience and ability to govern effectively while managing his health issues are testaments to his strength of character. The Dark Ages. The world into which Alfred was born was one of significant upheaval and transformation. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century had left a power vacuum in Western Europe, leading to the rise of various Germanic tribes, including the Franks in France, the Visigoths in Spain, and the Anglo-Saxons in Britain. This period, often referred to as the Dark Ages, was characterized by weak, decentralized states and frequent warfare. The Muslim conquest of Spain in the early 8th century further complicated the political landscape, as Islamic forces expanded into the Iberian Peninsula. However, the advance of Muslim armies into Western Europe was halted at the Battle of Tours in 732 by Charles Martel, a pivotal moment that preserved the Christian character of the region. In the centuries that followed, Europe began to recover and consolidate. This period saw the rise of the Carolingian Empire under Charlemagne, who sought to revive the ideals of the Roman Empire. His reign, known as the Carolingian Renaissance, was marked by a resurgence of learning, culture, and centralized political authority. Charlemagne's coronation as the first Holy Roman Emperor in 800 symbolized the union of Christian and imperial authority, a legacy that would influence European politics for centuries. In England, similar processes of consolidation were underway. By the 9th century, several Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, including Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria, had emerged as more unified and centralized states. Mercia, in particular, became the dominant power in England during the 8th century, exerting influence over much of the country. Wessex. Alfred was born into the Kingdom of Wessex during a time of increasing strength and expansion. The kingdom had absorbed Kent and effectively subdued Cornwall between the 830s and 850s, extending its influence across southern England. This expansion was not without challenges, as the kingdom faced external threats and internal tensions. One significant internal challenge arose when Alfred's father, Ethelwulf, returned from his pilgrimage to Rome in 856. Upon his return, Ethelwulf faced a challenge to his authority from his eldest son, Ethelbald, who sought to displace him. Ethelbald's actions were supported by senior figures in Wessex, including the alderman of Somerset and the bishop of Sherborne. This internal power struggle resulted in a compromise, with Ethelbald ruling the core kingdom of Wessex while Ethelwulf governed Kent. This arrangement continued even after Ethelwulf's death in 858, with subsequent kings taking over parts of the kingdom. Alfred's experience during this period of familial and political strife likely influenced his understanding of kingship and governance. The instability within the royal family underscored the importance of strong, centralized leadership and the challenges of maintaining unity within a kingdom. Viking raids. The external threat that loomed largest over Alfred's early life and reign was the Viking incursions. The first recorded Viking raid in the British Isles occurred in 793 at Lindisfarne Monastery in northeastern England, a harbinger of the waves of Norsemen that would descend upon England in the following decades. These raids, initially sporadic and primarily targeting coastal regions, were marked by their brutality and the Vikings' reputation for looting and destruction. By 865, the nature of the Viking threat had changed. The arrival of the Great Heathen Army, led by Danish warlord Halfdan Ragnarsson, marked a shift from raiding to conquest and settlement. The Vikings quickly overran Northumbria between 865 and 867, established control over East Anglia by 870, and began to threaten Mercia. The speed and effectiveness of these conquests left much of England vulnerable, with many Anglo-Saxon rulers forced into vassalage under the Danish leaders. Wessex, under the leadership of Alfred's brother Ethelred, faced this growing threat directly. Despite facing significant challenges, including several military defeats, Wessex remained the last significant Anglo-Saxon kingdom not under Viking control. The resilience shown by Wessex during this period, particularly in battles like the one at Ashdown in 871, demonstrated that the Vikings could be resisted. Alfred's succession. Alfred's rise to power came in the midst of these tumultuous times. Following the death of his brother Ethelred in 871, Alfred ascended to the throne of Wessex. At the time of his accession, the kingdom was under severe threat from Viking forces, particularly from the army led by Guthrum, a prominent Danish leader. Ethelred's sons were still infants, and the immediate crisis necessitated a strong leader who could effectively counter the Viking threat. Alfred's early reign was marked by a series of military engagements with the Danes, including both victories and setbacks. The most critical moment came in early 878, when Guthrum launched a surprise attack on Alfred's court at Chippenham during the Twelfth Night celebrations. Alfred narrowly escaped capture and fled to the Somerset marshes, where he regrouped with a small band of followers. This period of hiding and guerrilla warfare was crucial in shaping Alfred's leadership and military strategy. From his base in the marshes, Alfred conducted a series of counterattacks against the Vikings, culminating in the decisive Battle of Edington in May 878. This victory forced Guthrum to retreat and eventually led to the Treaty of Wedmore, which established a more stable boundary between Danish-controlled territories and those under Alfred's control. Guthrum and the Treaty of Wedmore. The Treaty of Wedmore, agreed upon following the Battle of Edington, was a landmark in Alfred's reign. Under the terms of the treaty, Guthrum and 30 of his followers were baptized into Christianity, with Alfred acting as Guthrum's godfather. This act not only symbolized Guthrum's submission, but also represented a significant shift in the nature of Viking-English relations. The conversion of Guthrum and his men was intended to integrate them into the Christian community and reduce the likelihood of further conflict. The treaty also delineated the boundary between Alfred's kingdom and the Danelaw, the area under Danish control. This boundary, largely following the course of the River Thames, helped stabilize the region and allowed Alfred to focus on consolidating and strengthening his kingdom. The Treaty of Wedmore thus marked the beginning of a relatively peaceful period in which Alfred could implement significant reforms and build the foundations of the English state. East Anglia and London. One of the key outcomes of the Treaty of Wedmore was Alfred's acquisition of London. The city had been a major trading center during the Roman period, but had declined after the Roman withdrawal in the 5th century. By the 8th century, London had begun to re-emerge as a significant trading hub, but it required substantial rebuilding and fortification. Alfred recognized the strategic importance of London, both as a defensive position and as a center of commerce. He initiated extensive repairs to the city's Roman walls and improved its defenses, laying the groundwork for London's future prominence as England's preeminent city. Alfred's efforts to secure and develop London were crucial in consolidating his control over southern England and establishing a strong economic and administrative center for his kingdom. Government and legal reforms. In the latter part of his reign, Alfred turned his attention to the governance and administration of his kingdom. One of his most significant achievements was the formalization of Wessex's financial and legal systems. The Burghalheidige, a document that detailed the system of fortifications and their associated obligations, is a key piece of evidence for these reforms. The Burghalheidige outlined the responsibilities of the local population in maintaining and defending the buzz, ensuring that each community contributed to the kingdom's defense. Alfred's will, which distributed 2,000 pounds of silver, also reflects the kingdom's wealth and the effectiveness of his financial policies. This substantial sum indicates the prosperity of Wessex under Alfred's rule, a prosperity that was supported by a stable and efficient system of taxation and governance. Alfred's coinage reforms further illustrate the kingdom's economic strength. During the 870s, the coinage in Wessex had been heavily debased, reflecting the kingdom's financial difficulties during the height of the Viking threat. However, by the 880s and 890s, Alfred had introduced a more stable coinage with a higher silver content, signaling the recovery and strengthening of the kingdom's economy. Londinium. The development of London under Alfred's rule was a critical aspect of his broader strategy to secure and strengthen his kingdom. The city's strategic location on the Thames made it an ideal center for trade and defense. Alfred's efforts to fortify London and integrate it into the administrative and economic framework of Wessex were instrumental in its rise as a major urban center. Alfred's decision to rebuild London's walls and establish a military presence in the city reflected his understanding of the importance of urban centers in maintaining control over his kingdom. By securing London, Alfred not only protected Wessex from potential invasions, but also established a base from which he could project power and influence across southern England. Law. Alfred's contributions to the legal system of Wessex are another significant aspect of his legacy. His law code, issued in the late 880s or early 890s, was based on earlier laws from the Kingdom of Wessex and incorporated elements of Christian doctrine. The code emphasized the importance of loyalty to the king and obedience to God's laws, reflecting Alfred's belief in the divine right of kings and the moral responsibilities of rulers. One of the most notable aspects of Alfred's law code was its focus on oath-keeping and loyalty. These principles were central to the legal and social order of the time, and Alfred's emphasis on them helped to establish a more unified and cohesive legal system. The concepts of felony and treason, which would become fundamental aspects of English law, can be traced back to the principles outlined in Alfred's code. Alfred's legal reforms were not only about maintaining order and justice, they also served to consolidate his authority and strengthen the centralization of the kingdom. By establishing a clear legal framework, Alfred was able to assert his control over the various regions of Wessex and ensure that the kingdom operated under a unified set of laws. Innovations. While Alfred's legal code drew on traditional laws and Christian principles, he also introduced significant innovations. One of these was the establishment of a system of local courts and officials who were responsible for administering justice. This system helped to ensure that the law was applied consistently across the kingdom and that local disputes were resolved fairly and efficiently. Alfred also placed a strong emphasis on education and the use of the vernacular language in legal and administrative documents. He believed that it was important for his subjects to have access to the laws and be able to understand them, which led to the translation of many Latin texts into Old English. This promotion of literacy and education was a key part of Alfred's vision for a more enlightened and educated society. Church and scholarship. Alfred's reign was also marked by his efforts to promote Christianity and support the church. Although there is limited information about the specific actions he took in this regard, it is known that he founded several monasteries, including those at Athelney and Shaftesbury. These foundations served both religious and strategic purposes, providing centers of learning and culture as well as places of refuge and defense. Alfred's commitment to education extended beyond the religious sphere. He established a school at his court in Winchester, where both noble and common children were educated. This school was part of Alfred's broader vision to create a learned society and to ensure that future generations were well prepared to govern and administer the kingdom. Viking conflicts and education. Despite the relative peace achieved after the Treaty of Wedmore, the Viking threat did not entirely disappear. In 892, a large Viking force attempted to invade Wessex, but Alfred's military reforms and the system of fortified baths effectively contained the threat. These baths, strategically located throughout the kingdom, provided safe havens for the population and served as bases for the kingdom's defenses. The success of these defensive measures allowed Alfred to focus more on his educational and cultural initiatives. He gathered a group of scholars at his court, including notable figures like Asser, Plegmund, Grimbald of St. Bertan, and John the Old Saxon. These scholars contributed to the translation of important texts into Old English and the promotion of learning and scholarship in Wessex. Alfred's vision. Alfred's vision for Wessex extended beyond military and political concerns. He saw his kingdom as part of a broader Christian community and believed that education and scholarship were essential for the well-being of his people. His efforts to promote learning were inspired by the Carolingian Renaissance, which had revitalized intellectual and cultural life in continental Europe. At his court in Winchester, Alfred established a school where children of noble and common birth alike could receive an education. He emphasized the importance of literacy in Old English, believing that his subjects should be able to read and understand important texts in their own language. This emphasis on education was part of Alfred's broader goal to create a more just and orderly society grounded in Christian values and the rule of law. Alfred's scholars. The scholars gathered at Alfred's court played a crucial role in realizing his vision. Asser, a Welsh monk and chronicler, wrote The Life of King Alfred, a key source for understanding Alfred's reign and character. Plegmund, who later became Archbishop of Canterbury, was another important figure, contributing to the reform of the church and the promotion of learning. Grimbald of St. Bertan, a Benedictine monk from France, brought with him knowledge of Frankish law and governance, which influenced Alfred's own reforms. John the Old Saxon, a scholar from Germany, was known for his linguistic skills and contributed to the translation of important texts. Together, these scholars helped to create a vibrant intellectual community at Alfred's court, fostering a culture of learning and inquiry that would have lasting effects on English society. Alfred's School. The school established by Alfred at Winchester was a pioneering institution for its time. It provided education to a wide range of students, including those of lower birth, reflecting Alfred's belief in the importance of education for all members of society. The curriculum included the study of Latin, the language of the church and scholarship, as well as Old English, the vernacular language of the people. Alfred's emphasis on the vernacular was particularly significant. He believed that knowledge should be accessible to all, and that the use of Old English in education and administration would help to create a more informed and cohesive society. This focus on the vernacular laid the groundwork for the development of a distinctive English literary tradition and contributed to the preservation of the English language during a period of significant cultural and political change. Alfred's legacy. Alfred's reign is best known for securing Wessex's independence from Viking rule and laying the foundations for the English nation. Through his military reforms, he created a more resilient and defensible kingdom. His legal and administrative reforms strengthened the central authority and established a more unified and just system of governance. Alfred's commitment to education and scholarship promoted a culture of learning and laid the foundation for the intellectual and cultural development of England. Alfred's legacy extends beyond his immediate achievements. He is often regarded as the father of the English nation for his role in uniting the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and establishing a sense of English identity. His vision of a learned and just society, grounded in Christian values and the rule of law, continued to influence English culture and politics long after his death. Alfred's death. Alfred died on October 26, 899, likely as a result of the health issues he had suffered from throughout his life. He was buried in Winchester, the capital of his kingdom, in the Old Minster. However, his remains were later moved to Hyde Abbey, and during the dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII, his grave was destroyed, and his remains were lost. Despite this ignominious end to his physical legacy, Alfred's impact on English history remains profound. His efforts to create a more unified and resilient kingdom laid the groundwork for the eventual unification of England under his successors. His emphasis on education, law, and governance set a standard for future English kings and established a model of kingship that emphasized moral authority, justice, and the welfare of the people. Alfred's legacy. Alfred left behind a strengthened and more cohesive Wessex, which his successors, including his son Edward the Elder and grandson Athelstan, continued to build upon. Edward expanded Wessex's territory and influence, and Athelstan became the first king to rule over all of England, completing the unification process that Alfred had begun. This consolidation of power marked the beginning of the English state as a unified political entity. Alfred's legacy also includes his contributions to the development of English law and government. His legal reforms laid the foundation for the English common law tradition, and his emphasis on education and scholarship helped to create a literate and informed society. These achievements, combined with his military successes and diplomatic acumen, established Alfred as one of the most important figures in English history. Power projection. Alfred's reign marked a turning point in English history. He successfully defended Wessex against the Viking incursions that had devastated other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms and laid the groundwork for the future unification of England. His military innovations, including the establishment of the system and the reorganization of the FYRD, provided a model for effective defense and governance. Alfred's diplomatic and cultural achievements were equally significant. He established a network of alliances with other Anglo-Saxon and Celtic kingdoms, fostering a sense of unity and shared identity among the English people. His promotion of learning and scholarship helped to revive intellectual and cultural life in England and laid the foundation for the future development of English literature and education. Conclusion. Alfred the Great's legacy extends beyond his military victories and political achievements. He reformed Wessex's finances, developed London, and promoted education and scholarship. His writings and laws have left a lasting impact on English history, shaping the legal and cultural landscape of the nation. Alfred's reign laid the groundwork for the English nation, a legacy that endures to this day. His vision of a just and learned society, grounded in Christian values and the rule of law, continues to inspire and inform the principles of governance and justice in the modern world. Thanks for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back in time to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.